Hi, we are Group A, and this will be our presentation in Art Appreciation, Lecture 6. My name is Anne Margaret Nimran, and I'm the group leader. Lecture 6, we will be discussing about art and philosophy, hedonism, action theory, and institutional theory. As we go along the slides, we will know more about these things. And what is the objective of this in art appreciation? So, here are the objective of this one. First is we have to relate the study of art in the field of philosophy so that whenever we are seeing specific things or an object, we would know where it is related and the world of art. Letter B is for us to have a comparison and contrast aesthetic functionalist, action, and institutional theories of art. For this one, as we go along the slides, we will know more about the aesthetic functionalist, action, and institutional theories of art. Letter C is we will be able to identify the artworks, styles, artists, and philosophers that abide with functionalism, action theory, and institutional theory. Letter D, we will be able to apply the theories to the analysis of art if that is still um, being practiced at this time and what are the changes have been made. Letter E is by then we could be able to formulate a philosophical approach to art appreciation and how it is relevant to the subject. Letter F is we can evaluate a merit or the merit of works of art based on the theories. For this one, since we know more about the theories, we can validate or invalidate these theories by our understanding and how it is still related in the culture that we have right now. Letter G is we will be able to interpret institutional theory as the foundation of postmodern art. And lastly, is this will make works of art that show the application of action and institutional theory. So I hope that by the end of this lesson, we will be able to gain the objectives that we have discussed. When moving on to our next slide is here are the important readings associated with this lecture. Number one is the author Arthur Danto in the year of 1964. He actually created the art world and genre of philosophy. For this one, I've actually done a research on this book, and this actually fills the gap in the literature in the first or in the 21st century. This includes the international visual arts education by providing a structured approach to understanding the benefits of philosophical realism in art education. This approach that has received a little international attention until now. The framework presented provides powerful interface between research and practical reconceptualization of critical issues and practice with regards to the book that he wrote. And not only that, the second one is Harold Rosenberg. For this one, he was the one who created the American action painters. So we have also included the link where we can check further with regards to this, and I've actually checked on that one, And here's what I found out. This is an actual book that he wrote, The American Action Painters, and the page 22, 23, and so forth. And for this action painting, their process involve about the splashing of usual gestural brush strokes and dripping paint onto canvas rather than carefully applying it. So ito rin nakikita natin madalas sa YouTube or kapag nagpupunta tayo um, ng mga gallery. So ito yung may mga malalaking painting na sobrang abstract na nakikita natin na um, walang specific shape or or size, and binibigyan lang ng artist ng ganda or hubog sa kung anong gusto nila lumabas yung art nila. So for this one, the term action painting was coined by Harold Rosenberg, which is actually the author that we are talking to, in as his groundbreaking article, The American Action Painters, published in Art News in December of 1952. And action painting was heavily criticized, which led to a rebellion led by creatives coming from different art movements. They were attacking the so-called irrationality of the action painting. So, yun, nagka-issue pa nga dahil dito. But then again, since these are also authors, we are checking or dito na pumapasok kanina sa objective natin kung there will be merit or demerit those work of arts. And also, not only that, moving on to our next slide, we would know more about it there. And these are video related to this study. For this one, say for example, we have video 6.1. This talks about the 1973, the Sydney Opera House. This talks about a brief history of its design and construction. So as we go along the slides, we would know kung maganda lang ba talaga yung opera house. Does it have a function, or is it functionally beautiful, or what? So what or not, what not. So with that, we would know about that later. And also we have the Pollock, Lord of Vera, the 3-Minute Wonder by Marcel de Camp Fontaine, Medio Cruz ECP exhibit is shut down. So these are the video related to that. And with this lecture, I was able to gain knowledge with regards how many seats do we have available in CCP during the time and the changes that we have right now. So I realized that there is a big difference from then and now when we look into that. And also for video 6.6, this is the Ombudsman, Polissimo ni Medio Cruz, hindi malaswa at hindi makungatya ng relihiyon. So as we go along the slides, we will know more about that. And lastly, the John Cage 433 by the BBC Symphony Orchestra. So we will discuss that later, or we also have related pictures with this one. And on to the next slide, these are the lectures that we will know. 6.1 is the aesthetic hedonism, action theory, and the institutional theory. So, ano nga ba yung aesthetic hedonism and how it is related nowadays? So, based on our research, aesthetic hedonism, it is the influential view in the field of aesthetic that beauty or aesthetic value can be defined in terms of pleasure. So with this one, ano nga ba yung mga example nito? So example, that for an object to be beautiful, for it to cause pleasure, or what experience of beauty always accompanied by pleasure. In aesthetic hedonism, this art theory was actually formulated by Artiri- Aristippus and Epicurus. They believe that whatever is good is um, what brings pleasurable experience to the individual person. Either it is food, wealth, or other things that would bring pleasure to the person. So there. And also with this one, another theory has been created with it, which is the action theory. Action theory or the reaction theory is a theory which is constantly built up and therefore never finished like any other theories. So, parang ano to, hindi siya natatapos. So, something like that. Wherein their process involved splashing, using gestural brushstrokes, and dripping paint onto canvas rather than carefully applying it. The term action painting was coined by Harold Rosenberg in his groundbreaking The American Action Painters that has been published in Art News in December 1952. This is the one that we have on our readings a while ago in the previous slides. So, correlate pa rin siya sa mga topics na dinidiscuss natin all throughout the lecture. So, bakit nga ba tinawag yung action painting na action painting? So, according nga kay Rosenberg, the canvas was an arena in which to act. So, again, it is an arena in which to act. The action means for creating the painting were seen in action painting of a higher importance than the end result. While he created the term action painting in 1952, he began created his action theory in 1930s as a critic. So parang taliwas din kasi in 1930s is he was a critic of that kind of art. However, he wrote or he created the action theory in the 1950s. So, more like for the action theory, ito yung mga abstract painting na nakikita natin sa mga gallery or museum. And then the institutional theory, this is actually the institutional theory of art is a theory about the nature of art that actually holds an object that only become an art in the context of institution known the art world. So for this one, for the institutional theory, more or less, ito yung mga nakikita natin sa gallery na art na talaga siya. It's a given art na nakikita na natin. So there. So sino nga ba ang nag-create ng institutional theory of art? So based on the studies or our related research, one of those is George Dickey. Again, the name is George Dickey. Many times, for this one, there is an often credited with being the founder of institutional theory. Though, in fact, the George Sturdy, whose theory it was, even if it aroused his mind through interpretation of a sentence present in the art world. So, yun. And then, going into our next slide. This is the lecture 6.1, which is the functionalist theory of art. So, for functionalist theory of art, this is the aesthetic functionalism. So, as we can see in our slide, this is Socrates in um, in the year of 1969 to 299. in Athens. And with this one, Beardsley in 1982, a functionalist characterized an artwork of either an arrangement or of condition intended to be capable of affording an aesthetic experience valuable for its marked aesthetic character, or incidentally an arrangement belonging to class or type of arrangement that is typically intended to have aesthetic functionalism, is a standpoint of a nature of art that consists claiming of being an artwork of having an aesthetic function. So with this one, we also have four theories of artistry, which are imitationalism, formalism, instrumentalism, and emotionalism. So chances are you already believe on those one theories and baka narinig na nga natin sila. So with that, marami pang theories of art. Say for example, yung mga naririnig natin or the one that we already know, like the basic one is the abstract or abstraction, expressionism, formalism, minimalism, naturalism, romanticism, and symbolism. So those are actually theory of art. And um, for this one, another example is this. So this is a painting of Socrates or Raphael, the School of Athens. For this one, if you are seeing these two, this actually the trial of Socrates, because he was charged, or there were charges against him, which are, one is not honoring the god of Athens, and the second one is corrupting the youth of Athens. So this is actually a trial, and then this one is another painting of Raphael, and this is what we call Estancia della Signatura paintings, the School of Athens after Raphael's painting. So these are from School of Athens, fresco by Raphael in the year of 1508 to 11 in the Stanza della Signatura in Vatican. For Pope Julius II's private apartment, Raphael painted a sort of school reunion for the intellectual powerhouses of antiquity, otherwise known as the School of Athens. So, with this slide, akala natin na ganyan lang siya, painting lang siya. But then again, there is story behind that. And as we go along another slide, there is a lot of picture, but my members will be able to describe and provide more information about those paintings and work of arts. And I hope that you will enjoy our presentation. That's it. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I am Raiden Abdulatif and I will be presenting functional organic architecture in slide 11. Slide 11, Frank Lloyd Wright was an American architect, designer, writer, and educator. He designed more than 1,000 structures over a creative period of 70 years. Wright believed in designing in harmony with humanity and environment, a philosophy he called organic architecture. Le Corbusier, international influential Swiss architect and city planner, whose design combined the functionalism and of the modern movement with bold sculptural expressionism. He belonged to the first generation of the so-called International School of Architecture and was their most able propagandist in his numerous writings. In his architecture, he joined the functionalist aspirations of his generation with a strong sense of expressionism. Slide number 12. Chair feels the need. In this view, the most important function of a chair is to help one find and sustain such a posture. Chairs satisfy the need, like walls chairs not only occupy, but also create space, an attribute which allows them to organize human interactions and affect our productivity. The position of chairs in a room is known as proxemic design, which deals with human responses to space. A fully functioning person is one who is in touch with their inner self. They have self knowledge, understand their desires, potential, and emotions, and live a full time according to their own terms. Next is slide number 13. Pencils create mark by physical abrasion, leaving a trail of solid core material that adheres to a sheet of paper or other surface. They are distinct from pens, which dispense liquid or gel ink onto the marked surface. A pencil is a writing utensil with graphite lead embedded in a wooden shaft. It is mainly used for artistic sketching and drawing, for stenography or notes. Its benefits are the simple usage as well as being able to remove what you drawn with an eraser. Slide number 14, the Mona Lisa is an oil painting by Italian artist, inventor, and a writer Leonardo da Vinci, likely completed in 1506. The piece of features a portrait of a seated woman set against an imaginary landscape. It is a visual representation of idea of happiness suggested by the word Gioconda in Italian. Leonardo made this notion of happiness the central motive of the portrait. It is the notion that makes the work such an ideal. The nature of the landscape also plays a role. Mona Lisa should be considered as a traditional portrait, for it represents an ideal rather than real woman. The sense of overall harmony achieved in the painting, especially apparent in the sitter's faint smile, reflects the idea of a link connecting humanity and nature. Slide 15. If you ever watch a sunrise or sunset, you probably become a bit overwhelmed with such a beautiful sight. Or maybe you've seen some extraordinary sights while traveling, appreciating the majestic beauty of nature. Surely you've seen something so beautiful that it took your breath away at least once or twice. Yes, there is a beauty and excellence all around us, but we're not always viewing the world in mindful way. Life can get busy and we can grow complacent with the most beautiful and excellent things right around us. If you're not careful and rush right through your days, you might miss such sight right in front of you. You might miss the excellence of life. Slide number 16, the monetary value of art refers to the selling price of an art piece at any given point. The monetary value of art depends on several factors such as age, place, depiction, relation to a historical event, and also the artist who made it, like currency. The commercial value of art is based on collective intentionality. Human stipulation and declaration create and sustain the commercial value. Slide number 17, Dusk in Venice San Giorgio Maggiore by Twilight or Sunset in Venice refers to an impressionist painting by Claude Monet which exists in more than one version. It forms part of a series of views of the monastery island of San Giorgio Maggiore. The painting is also about capturing the beauty of the light at sunset. Typical of Impressionist painting in general, Sunset in Venice conveys the changing qualities of light and sense of movement visible in the water. Slide number 18, the Parisian life, also known as Interior Dune Cafe, also spelled Interior Dune Cafe, literally meaning inside a cafe, is an oil-on-canvas impressionist painting made by Filipino painter and revolutionary activist Juan Luna in 1892. The Parisian life has relaxed and playful mood. There are two special things about this painting. One is the lady portraying the mirrored image of the maps of the Philippines. If you reverse the painting, it will look like the structure of the archipelago. The last is the meaning isolation based on the painting by Juan Luna. The lady is sitting on the couch alone while there are three men chatting or conversing in a round table. The lady portrays the Philippines that was isolated during the time of the colonizer because the Filipino didn't have the freedom unless you have a Spanish and American blood. A well-known fact that the audience believe is the three men wearing black coats are one Luna facing forward in the center, Dr. Jose Rizal's half turned back, and Ariston Bautista Lin sitting the closest to the lady who were on a voyage. These Those three men on the painting were portrayed as embraced Western lifestyle while remaining Filipino at heart. Slide number 13, Nude, Green Leaves and Buzz is one of a series of portraits that Picasso painted of his mistress and muse Marie Therese Walter from 1932. He kept their relationship secret for many years, even from some of his closest friends, but particularly from his wife Olga. Picasso, a middle-aged married man, fell in love with her when he saw her outside the metro and proposed that he paint her portrait. Marie Therese died by suicide and remained faithful to her lover till her last breath. It is undoubtedly one of the most sensuous paintings out of his collection of large nudes. The painting showcased Marie Therese's body with a philodendron plant coming out of her, a symbol of fertility. Slides number 20, the Sistine Chapel Ceiling, Italian Soffitto della Cappella Sistina, painted in fresco by Michelangelo between 1508 and 1512, is a cornerstone work of high Renaissance art. The Sistine Chapel is the large papal chapel built within the Vatican between 1477 and 1480 by Pope Sixtus IV, for whom the chapel is named. The ceiling was painted at the commission of Pope Julius II. Its importance in the history of art cannot be overstated. It turned into a veritable academy for young painters, a position that was cemented when Michelangelo returned to the chapel 20 years later to execute the Last Judgment fresco on the altar wall. The overall theme of the Sistine Chapel paintings is the relationship between humans and God. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Julian Iluna and today I'm going to discuss about architectural principle. And in this lesson, we're going to learn what are the form and function of the architectural principle. Architectural principle: form follows function. Purpose: in function, it has a purpose or use of the building. In forms, they have shape, size, color, texture, space, and proportion. This slide is floor plan. Every part of the house has its specific function, so that it has to be designed according to its use, like the master's bedroom. The master's bedroom is the main bedroom in the home. Its primary purpose is to provide a place for sleep. Next slide is the blueprint for the Guggenheim Museum, 749 drawings. Floor plan for the second level. This drawing illustrates the relationship between the two ramps in plan. Overlapping circles. The intersection of pure forms was archetypally of Wright's design process. The annotation of the drawing revealed the quick ramp was designed to be twice as steep as the grand ramp. And this is the Guggenheim Museum. Guggenheim Museum is one of the New York City most iconic and beloved building, and every day at the Guggenheim there are several thousand visitors who's in and out in frank design. The Guggenheim Museum provides a significant contrast with its surrounding buildings due to its spiral form, emphasized by the fusion between triangle, oval, arcs, circles, and squares, which correspond to the concept of organic architecture used by Frank Lloyd Wright in this design. The ramp stack of each other, and what can easily do is to make a relationship between the work sets showing off, and there you go to museum. It's a very individual experience. What you get here is also an experience of seeing and being seen and doing the constantly while you're walking around the ramps. And this slide we would see the Petronal Tower, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, main office of Petron Corporation in Asia. The twin tower, built to house the headquarters of Petronas, the National Petroleum Company of Malaysia, were designed by the Argentine-born American architect Cesar Pelli. They were completed in 1998. The design of each tower floor plate is based on simple Islamic geometric form of two interlocking squares, creating a shape of an eight-pointed star. Architecturally, this form represents the importance of Islamic principle of unity, harmony, and stability. And this slide is the Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal is an mausoleum complex in Argam, Western Uttar Pradesh state, northern India. It is considered the finest example of Mughal architecture, or a blend of Indian, Persian, and Islamic style. The Taj Mahal is also one of the world's most iconic monuments, visited by millions of tourists each year. The 3D shape of the Taj Mahal has hemisphere, rectangular prism, cuboid, and cylinder. 2D is abbreviated as two-dimensional, whereas 3D is abbreviated as the three-dimensional. The white marble mausoleum of the Taj Mahal is probably the most famous building in India. Its structure, its symmetry, its proportion make it one of the most beautiful elements of World Heritage in any country. The approaching it makes the experience and interesting as it's mere vision from afar or of the photo. This descriptional of flower decorations which represent the majority of the elements of the decor of the monument, complete in beauty with the building himself. The white marble is flanked on either side by identical building in red sandstone. One of these serve as mosque, and the other, whose exact function is unknown, provides architectural balance. Interior view of the Taj Mahal, showing the sarcophagi or tomb of Shah Jahan and Tumas Mahal. The interior floor plan of the Taj exhibits the hush, busiest 8-level principle, alluding the 8th level of paradise, consisting of 8 halls and side rooms connected to the main space in cross-action plan. The favored design of Islamic architecture from the mid-15th centuries. The center of the main chamber holds Mumtaz Mahal, intricate decorated marble cenotaph on a raised platform. The emperor cenotaph was laid down beside hers after the died 3 decades later. Both are encased in octagon of exquisitely carved with marble screen. The coffins bearing their remains lie in the space directly beneath the cenotaph. And this slide is Pyramid of Egypt. Serve as burial tomb for the pharaoh. The most famous of the Egyptian pyramid are the 3 massive tombs of the 4th dynasty. These monumental pyramids built for the pharaohs Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, house of royal mummies, and their worldly effect thought to protect and be used by the kings in their afterlife. Among of all this work of architecture are the pyramids of Egypt. They are provided with every amenity so that the pharaohs was entombed there could enjoy themselves in the afterworld. as they had in life. Chief among these luxuries, of course, was sharp razor blade. Plan of the pyramid showing the burial chamber. This chamber, which measured 10.45 meters long, 5.20 meters wide, and 5.80 meters high, is truly a masterpiece of ancient Egypt architecture. Above it are so less than five carefully designed relief chambers, which in modern times were discovered by the crude act of using dynamite to create an inclusive passageway. The Cultural Center of the Philippines, or the CCP. CCP is the premier showcase of the arts in the Philippines. Founded in 1969, the CCP has been producing the presenting music, dance, theater, visual arts, literacy, cinematic, and design events from the Philippines and all over the world from more than 40 years. National Artist for Architectural Design, signed by architect Leandro V. Locsin. Architectural design structure is theater. This is located at Pasay City, Manila, Philippines. Tanghalang Nicanor Avelano, CCP Main Theater. The Tanghalang Nicanor Abelardo, or Main Theater, has seats 1,815 guests and has 4 levels. Orchestra, boxes, balcony 1 and 2. The shape and design were rigidly controlled by acoustical requirements. The stage floor is made of the mahogany woods, characterized for its sternness and huge sizes. Tanghalang Aurelio Tolentino, or the Little Theater. The Tanghalang Aurelio Tolentino, or Little Theater, is a conventional proscenium stage designed for drama, chamber music, solo recital, lectures, and film screening. With a capacity of 421 guests, and stage curtain is tapestry made in Kyoto, Japan, based on the painting of Roberto Chabet, former director of the CCP Museum. This theater was named after the renowned Filipino novelist and playwright during the late Spanish colonial period. And this is my last slide, the Tanghalang Huseng Batute, or the Studio Theater, 1,240 seats capacity. And that's all for my presentation. Thank you for listening.
I'm John Medino, and I was assigned to discuss the architectural design and the history of the Sydney Opera House. So my reference for my report are Wikipedia, Sydney Opera House website, or the www.sydneyoperahouse.com, and the last one is the timetoast.com, the timelines of the Sydney Opera House. First, we on the picture that you're going to see on my report is the Sydney Opera House, 1954 to 1973, by Jorn Utzon. Jorn Utzon is the Danish architect of the Sydney Opera House. He was born and raised in Copenhagen, in Denmark. He won the competition to design the Sydney Opera House, and he was most notable for designing the Sydney Opera House in Australia and completed in 1973. His submission was one of 233 designs from 32 countries, many of them from the most famous architects of the time. And just to give you a brief background, that one of the judge to pick who picked the design of Jorn Utzon is Eero Saarinen. He described it as genius and declared he could not endorse any other choice but the design of Mr. Jorn Utzon, which is the architect of the Sydney Opera House. Okay, so let's start. The Sydney Opera House is a multi-venue performing arts center in Sydney, located on the banks of Sydney Harbour. It is widely regarded as one of the world's most famous and distinctive buildings and masterpiece of 20th century architecture. Okay, and Jorn Utzon claimed that the final design of the shell of the Sydney Opera House was inspired by peeling an orange. So this is what it looks like. If you can see this, the peeling of orange, this is actually the concept of the design of Mr. Um, Jorn Utzon, which is the architect of the Sydney Opera House. The design of the Sydney Opera House was inspired by nature, its forms, functions, and colors. Utzon was influenced in his designs by bird wings, the shape and form of clouds, shells, walnuts, and palm trees. He looked upon nature for guidance when designing as nature over time and combined both efficiency and beauty hand in hand. So the roof structure of the opera house are called shells. The design of the shells was one of the most difficult aspects of the building design. John Utzon claimed that the final design of the shell was inspired by peeling of an orange. It is said that the shells of the 14 separate roof form a spear if combined. And he was one of the pioneers in the use of prefabricated modular forms and designing for sustainability. So let's start the history of the Sydney Opera House. So in 1955, on September 13th, the contest for design of the Opera House was launched, which won by Jorn Utzon. And in 1958, the construction after the demolition of the Fort Macquarie Tram Depot, construction of the Sydney Opera House was begun in March 1959. So this is the Opera House. As you can see on the picture. Okay, so in 1959, the phase one has begun, the podium construction. The construction of the upper podium would begin, which will house all the people, facilities, changing rooms, bars, and lobbies with an area of 1.8 hectares on two platforms at 8 and 15 meter above sea level. So in 1961, there was a delay in construction. Construction was delayed in 47 weeks to the original plan, while the budget was $3 million, which was not enough according to the government of the Sydney, Australia. So that is the cause of the delay ng construction. So 1962, podium and interior design. On August, the podium was completed, and a year later, the interior design was built. So the phase two was started. Ayan, yung ceiling na yung ginagawa sa Opera House, sa Sydney Opera House. For 2 years, various roofing alternative were experimented. The original idea of parabolic surfaces was dangerous since if one collapsed, the other would follow. Finally, the architect Utzon devised a great solution. The covers would be made using ribs of a spear of radius 75 meter forming independent layers and would not successively collapse if one of them failed. Yung ribs, ito yung kung makita nyo yung mga new house architecture ngayon, architectural design, ito yung mga bars na talagang matibay yung ginagamit para sa mga ceilings and roofs. And in 1966, there was a conflict. After a long conflict with the New South Wales government, due to the construction cost, Utzon gives up on the project and Peter Hall, the new architect, takes over the design of the Sydney Opera House. So Utzon found himself in conflict with the new minister, attempting to rein in the escalating cost of the project. Huge began questioning Udzon's capability, his designs, his schedule, and cost estimates, refusing to pay running costs in 1966 after a final request from Udzon that plywood manufacturer Ralph Simons should be one of the suppliers for the roof structure was refused. Then that's the time he resigned from the current job, which is the architect of the Sydney Opera House, closed his Sydney office, and vowed never to return to Australia. Then, when Udzon left, the shells were almost complete and cost amounted to only $22.9 million. And in 1967, there is the phase 3 started, which is the interior. Ito yung loob ng Sydney Opera House. Peter Hall, which is the new architect, carried out the development of the interiors of the work, changing some of the concepts of Utzon, especially in the opera room, increasing the galleries and modifying the shape of the ceiling of the concert hall. And in 1973, the inauguration of the Sydney Opera House. It was opened on October 20, 1973, by Queen Isabel II. The opening ceremony consisted of fireworks and the performance by Symphony Number 9 by Beethoven. And of course, during that year as well, in 1973, the final cost was showed of the Opera House was estimated at 3.5 million Australian dollars, but this increased to $120 million or equivalent to 4.5 billion Philippine pesos. And just to give you a glimpse or a background then, in 2007, during this year, it was named a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. Yan, formally beautiful but functionally ugly. And in 2020 present, it is currently a fabulous construction located in the city of Sydney, Australia. Sydney in Australia. It's design inspired by abstract art, in which opera, theater, piano, and symphony events are held, among other works of an artistic nature. It is 67-meter high, 27,000 tons of tiles, and more than 1 million pieces. So inside the Opera House, the performance venues and facilities, the Sydney Opera House includes a number of performance venues. Merong concert hall, merong Joan Sutherland Theatre, merong drama theater, merong playhouse, studio, of course, the Udzon Room and recording studio. Meron din outdoor forecourt. Ito yung flexible open-air venue with wide range of configuration options, including the possibility of utilizing the monumental steps as audience seating used for a range of community events and major outdoor performances. Other facilities of the Sydney Opera House is the building also houses a recording studio, retail shops, cafes, restaurants, bars, including the opera bar and opera kitchen. Guided tours are available, including a frequent tour of the front of house spaces and a daily backstage tour that takes visitors backstage to see areas normally reserved for performers and crew members. So that's all for my report. It's all about the architectural design and history of the Sydney Opera House in Australia. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Justine Marie Palisok, and today I'm going to discuss feminine beauty in slides 51 to 65. In this lesson, there are two factors that would identify feminine beauty. The first one is a form, or basically the shape of a woman's body. Next is a function, or the woman's capability of giving birth or getting pregnant. Vital statistics. So this is a very essential information that would help us emphasize a woman's body. By the number alone, 36, 24, 36, we would have an idea that the woman's body is sexy, even though we have not seen the person yet. All right. Venus of Willendorf, 35,000 BC. So the Venus of Willendorf was also known as a Venus figurine. This is actually a sculpture that is 11.1 centimeter tall or 4.4 inches. Now, the figure itself was associated with fertility and childbearing, and some researchers believed that the Venus of Willendorf and similar figurines may have been used as a fertility goddess. In the next slides, we would see pictures or paintings that would emphasize the women's capability of giving birth and their body shape. The first one we have is Adam and Eve, 1526. So these are actually two different portraits. Now they are on a different panels on a dark background, standing on a barely visible ground. So I would like us to give emphasis on Eve's body. As you would see, her stomach is bulging, which indicates fertility that symbolizes feminine beauty. Same with the next painting. This is Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel paintings. So Sistine Chapel is a very famous painted interior spaces in the world. So I'm sure you already have an idea as to how it looks like, because this is something that we have discussed in history back when we were in elementary and high school. So this is just like a part or one part of the paintings in the chapel. Same with this one, the expulsion of Adam and Eve. So this is almost the same with the previous picture. As you would see, there are nude bodies on this picture. But just to give you a trivia though, Masaccio was actually an inspiration to the more famous Michelangelo. So basically, mas nauna siya. It just so happened that Michelangelo got more famous than him. Next is this one, the Arnolfini marriage in 1434. So as you would notice, this is a bit different compared to the previous slides, kung saan mas madalas makitang hubad yung mga babae. But in this picture, you would notice that the woman is wearing green. The green symbolizes fertility and the capacity of reproduction. But the question is she really pregnant? Based on this slide, she's not pregnant. She intentionally made herself appear having big stomach in order to indicate fertility, which symbolizes feminine beauty. All right. Now, this is a very famous painting and is a portrait of a two members of a merchant family from Lucca who had been living in Bruges in modern day in Belgium. Next we have is Botticelli, The Birth of Venus in 1482. So as we all know, Venus is a Roman goddess of love and beauty. Now, The Birth of Venus is a painting by the Italian artist Sandro Botticelli, probably executed in the mid 1480s. Same with this one, Sleeping Venus in 1510. So there are some similarities between these two pictures. So as you would see, the woman or Venus is nude as well, And this is the stomach is bulging, which is a sign of fertility. Okay, another example is Venus of Urbino. So it's just the same. It's a symbol of beauty, and you would see the body shape as well as the size of the stomach. All right. Next is Venus with organ player and Cupid, 1530. So this is another example. But based on my research, aside from the feminine beauty, there are also other things that would like to be emphasized on this painting. The first is the beauty of sound or the music, and then the beauty of vision. So as you would notice, yes, there is an organ player as well as the environment as the background. Lastly, we have Peter Paul Rubens Marie de' Medici arriving at Versailles 1762. Now, Marie de' Medici commissioned 24 paintings, pictures that depicted historical events in her life with the intention to decorate the Palais de Luxembourg. So basically, the mission of this painting really is an attempt to sway public opinion regarding her right to rule. But I would like to I would like us to focus more on this part of the picture where you can see there are three women who are in nude, which again symbolizes women's fertility and body shape. So basically, the pictures that we have seen today are best examples of feminine beauty. So that's all for today. And again, thank you very much for viewing this video.
Afternoon to everyone. My name is Aijen Perez. My topic for this group is action theory of art. Theory based on Jackson Pollitt's of abstract expressionism. Action equals to art, and painting is a verb, not a noun. Harold Roseberg's noong 1952 action painting, the canvas began to appear as an arena in which to act. What was to go on the canvas is not a picture, but an event. So, ang nais niya lang naman sabihin dito, ang painting ay hindi nagsisimbolo ng isang larawan, ngunit ito ay isang kaganapan. So, katulad na sinabi kanina ni Jackson, ang painting is equal to action. So, isa sa mga nagawa ni Jackson Pollock is the Lavender Smith noong 1947. At si Jackson Pollock noong 1912 to 1956, so isa sa mga influencer o isa sa mga kilala o sa mga panahon na yon, isa sa mga pinaka ma-impluwensyang tao pagdating sa larangan ng pagpipinta. Dahil sa style na rin niya, kung paano siya magpinta, nilalagay niya yung canvas niya sa floor kasi ang sabi niya nga, mas komportable siya kapag nasa sahig, nakakakilos siya sa bawat corner nung canvas or kung ano man yung materials na ginagamit niya pagdating sa pagpipainting. So, isa naman dito, merong isang sun painting, gumagamit sila ng sun sa pagpipaint. So, parang naging tradisyon na to eh. Tradisyon na to sa mga gumagamit nito. At may kahulugan sa kanila ang paggamit ng sun. Yung sun, hindi lang siya basta-basta black sun or yung madalas nakikita natin sa Boracay or sa Palawan. Itong sun na to, nilalagyan nila ng kulay para pag ginamit nila sa painting ay magkaroon ng buhay. So, naniniwala sila. They believe to be a portal that attract the spirit, that heal the sick. So ito, isa to sa mga painting na ginagawa nila, nilalagyan lang nila to ng color para kapag ginamit nila magkaroon ng buhay ang kanilang mga pinipinta gamit ang sun. So, Pollock's painting 1948, this is one of the famous, sabi nga, So ito naman, yung painting na 1948 has become one of the most, di ba? Nare-recognize na pinta nung 20th century sa Amerika. Kasi yun nga, yung dahil sa unique na o yung way niya kung paano ipinta ito ng mga panahon na yon. So, syempre, kahit, di ba parang ang nangyari, naging traditional or nasanay tayo na nakakita ng mga pintor na nakaupo, tapos may canvas sa harapan nila, din nagpipaint. So, for them, parang ibang technique na yun nga, yung pagwiwisik ng brush. So, kaya naging mabenta at mas nakilala siya na, ang ganda, parang may kinakalabasan. And ang mga pintor naman, naniniwala ko na hindi lang naman sila basta-basta gumagawa ng wala lang. For them, it has a meaning. Polyps black and white noong 1950. Ito, yung canvas na ginamit dito is 20 foot. Imagine 20 foot, sobrang taas nun. Sobrang laki nun. Wide canvas yung ginamit nila dito. Yung paggamit ng black and white dito, makikita mo yung expression niya, yung inner. So, sa painting na to, dinescribe or dinidescribe ni Jackson yung feelings niya, yung inner feelings niya through this painting. Number 32, challenge our view of what painting should be. So dito, parang sinasabi nila na kapag katagalan daw o kapag nalaman ng mga audience o ng mga taong nakakita ng painting na to, pag pinalawak yung imagination or parang ang isa sa mga purpose ng painting nito ay para lumawak yung imagination ng mga taong nakakakita nito. So if you look at this artwork for a while, you will find your imagination running wild out of the lines of organic shapes. May ganun. Lucifer is known as being the beautiful angel who fell from heaven, which Polyps felt was the perfect way to describe this earth. Okay. Itong painting na to, ito daw yung pinakamalaki na painting noon. So then yung painting na to or yung painter na to, yung mga ginagawa niya is ganyan lang, different colors, pero hindi mo siya mare-recognize kung ano nga ba yung mga shapes nung pinapakita niya. So this one, color composition, is considered by abstract at aficionados to be the most important painting of the 20th century. Most important abstract painting ever created. Kapag first timer ka, magiging negative yung magiging thoughts mo kasi parang wala naman dating or wala namang ibig sabihin ng painta na ginagawa niya o yung ginawa niya. Si Joha Karate, Filipino action painter. Siya yung nakilala sa mundo na pagdating sa pagpipinta. Action painter. Was a Filipino painter best known for his abstract na ginagawa niya. Yung technique, yung control sa pagditrip. So katulad lang din siya ni Jackson ng Polyps. Yung way din ng pagpipaint niya is yung drip. And then meron siya mga ginagawa yung parang feeling mo transparent yung mga painting niya. So yan, yung mga ginawa niya, masterpiece niya, painting, showcase different shades of yellow. So different shades of yellow mixed with sand. So yan yung mga iba mga na pininta niya. So habang tumatagal, we know naman na nagkakaroon ng upgrade or nagkakaroon ng mga bagong technology or mga ginagamit natin. So in this generation, especially ngayon, using computer action painting, humanities students. So sa pagpipinta, hindi lang siya Ngayon marami na tayong source, even sa Canvas, na gagamit na rin natin. So, before we use Canvas or kung ano man na marami tayong inano, this time we can use computer to have painting using our smartphones, laptops. So, we use it for painting in this time. So, yun lang naman.
Hi, my name is Ralph Ubamos and I will be presenting action painting using Microsoft Application Paint and Color Field Painting from slide 89 up to 110. But first, let's discuss what is action painting and its characteristics. It is a highly changed impulsive style of abstract gestural painting during which paint is energetically splashed, split, and drip onto a canvas, usually placed face up on the floor. Although this type of automatic painting has been used by different artists involves um, in different movements, such as surrealism, it is principally associated with the New York School of America, abstract expressionism of the 1940s and 1950s, and with the painter Jackson Pollock. Action painting is predicated on the idea that the creative process involves a dialogue between the artist and the canvas. So just as the artist affects the canvas by making a mark on it, that mark is turn affects the artist and determines the trajectory of the next mark. As Rosenberg explained, each stroke had to be a decision and was answered by a new question. While spontaneity is key to action painting, it is always within the parameters of the dialogue. So with Microsoft Paint, you can create your own art and it comes with all copies of Microsoft Windows. It's a perfectly capable program which you can use to make. In it, there are different types of brush, crayon, marker, and pencil to use. So here are the examples of the action painting. And now, let's discuss the color field painting. But first, let's define what is color field painting. Among the post-painterly abstractionists was a group of painters that came to be known as the color field painter. So their name referred to that tendency these artists had to incorporate large areas of color into their works. Their color field could entirely develop a viewer upon close inspection of an artwork. They weren't just painted surfaces. They were also areas in which introspection could occur. The color field painters were revolutionary because rather than using the surface as a background on which to paint a subject, they caused the surface itself became the subject. They avoided form in their paintings. There was no image and of anything present. The background and foreground were one. The color fields and no context of their own, but were rather a place in which the viewer could connect with something personal, perhaps something mythic, and transcend to limitations of imaginary. And here are the samples of field painting. So as you can see, it's quite simple. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. This is Maria from BSN Trap 13, and today I'll be discussing the institutional theory of George Dickey Arthur Danto and about art as an institution in the society or the art world. So the art world people in the position of power. So we will discuss the artists, the art critics, art historians, educators, art patrons, curators, art museums, galleries, schools, clubs, art awards, recognitions, popularity, art journals, TV, and newspapers. So, for something to become an art is like for someone to become a dentist or an engineer, must pass all the standards set by the school as an institution. Art, for some to become an artist, is like for a person to become a member of the Catholic Church and rise to the hierarchy, must go through all the stages prescribed by the church as an institution. So we will be discussing how to be an engineer. So on how to be an engineer, you need to study from elementary, graduate, high school, then graduate, college, graduate, pass the board exam, and then work in a company. How about on how to become pro in the institution of the Catholic Church? You need first to be seminarian, a deacon, priest, bishop, cardinal, and then pope. Also, on a boxing as an institution, there is Nevada Athletic Commissions. There are also three judges who, um, who will judge who will be the winner or who is the great boxer. And there's also referee, promoters, especially Pacquiao and Mayweather. There is also media and audience that needed on on the boxing. So we're talking also about how to be recognized as an artist by the art world institution. So first, she has a skill and talent. Study an art school, has a degree in fine arts. Also become a member of art organization, win recognitions, prizes, and awards. Also has artworks exhibited in museums, galleries. You also be mentioned in books, media, and art history. Become well known and also make some revolutionized art. So a thing becomes art because it's acknowledged to be art by the art world. Just like the example on the picture. The world of ordinary objects, meaning that's what we call non-art. So meaning plain. When we say art, there is an extraordinary or we make things extraordinary from ordinary to something special. That's how we identify the art or the art world. So there is some samples of extraordinary arts, just like the example of Duchamp's fountain or the urinal. I have a very short explanation about this one. Duchamp fountain. The fountain tested beliefs about art and the role of taste in the art of world. In the interview on 1964, Duchamp said that he had chosen a urinal in part because he thought that it had the least chance of being liked. So meaning he thought that everyone will not like this kind of art. But everyone just notice it. Although many of that time they find it aesthetically pleasing. So they found it aesthetically pleasing for some people. So they like it that kind of art. The explanation of this one is um Bedfordshire Model Urinal. That's what we call on that. Entry and art competition by the Society of Independent Artists, submitted by Marcel Duchamp, which is the artist who made this kind of art in 1917. Also has 8 reproductions, one copy sold for only $1.7 million in 1999. Imagine that kind of dollars. Exhibited in many museums in the world, voted also by art critics and historians as the most influential artwork of the 20th century. Represent a Copernican shift in art, include in art history, and discussed in classroom lectures. So that's how become the urinal being famous. So Duchamp also have a bicycle wheel in 1914, and he called it that is art because I say so. You can just search it. What's the meaning of that bicycle wheel? So also we have it a great art made by Leonardo da Vinci, one of the famous artist because he made this kind of um, artwork, which is what we call Mona Lisa. It is the most historical, the most popular and well known, the most influential, the most expensive, and Renaissance painting in the world. So I know that some of you know who is this on the picture. The girl who doesn't have a eyebrows. Okay. Also, there is Amanda Regina Orate. He made this kind of Doraemon, which is really famous cartoon, Doraemon. He made that on his imagination, Doraemon. Also, Picasso. I know some of you know Picasso, some of his arts. And one of the famous that is the mouse. Imagine he's just using some of lines and we identify it as mouse. Okay, so we will just discuss very basic about Pablo Picasso, the most famous and successful artist on the 20th century, the most influential painter in the history of modern art genius, originator of Cubism, and 75 years of art career, 13,500 paintings that he made, 100,000 of prints, and $34 illustrations, and 300 sculptures. Imagine that. So trivia about Pablo Diego Jose Francisco de Paula Juan Nepomuceno de los Remedios Crispiano de las Santissima Trinidad y Picasso. That is his name, a very, very long name. So that's only a trivia about Pablo Picasso. He has a long name. Rhea Regis, a feminist arrest on 2009. He made that kind of art, which entitled Who's That? Okay. So is this an art? May I ask, is this an art? For me, this is kind of art and a pleasing for the eye. This is actually the Java Chef Rap Freitag Berlin, Germany in 1995, the installation art. So you may also search about this kind of sculpture, I mean a building of art. So that's what they call the Java Chef Rap Freitag Berlin, Germany. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly, but that's how they call it. Also, there is Kistas of the Havasha, who actually made that kind of art. He actually from Vienna Academy of Fine Arts, honorary degree, Occidental College, and elected into a National Academy of Design. Is being awarded Premium Imperial. So Havasha Rap Twist, Switzerland in 1998. So this is what his kind of art. So meaning he's making some arts through wrapping something, like for example, this kind of trees. He will wrap it like a plastic or something. And just like what this kind of building, he wrap it with plastic. So that's the kind of his art. Wrap trees, also wrap cans. That's some of his example. He also wrapped Woman from 1968 and Shavashat running fence, yes, in California with 5.5 meters high, 40 kilometers long, with a 2,152,278 square feet of white nylon fabric hung from a steel cable strung between 2,050 steel posts captured by $350 hooks. Longest installation of art. So that's an example of art of Java. So imagine that kind of art. Okay, illustration in the book Philippine Reader by Fernando Armasolo. So we will discuss this also. So Fernando Armasolo, a grand old man of Filipino painters, masters of tropical scenery, first Filipino impressionist, most popular painter in the country, made more than 10,000 paintings, won first prize in New York Fair in 1939, Dean of UP College of Fine Arts, and first Philippine national artist. So he made the actually the Hinelba San Miguel logo. I mean, if you're a drinker, you may see this kind of art. So he made that the label of Ginebra San Miguel. This kind of like a grass. He also made that, and then the Don S. Armasolo Bridge plaques on 2010. So he also made something like that. That's some of his samples of painting. So we this is what they call serial paintings. Okay, there's also start installation Medio Cruz Politismo Culo exhibit on 2009 on CCP. So he made some pictures like combining pictures like magazine, picture of God, an artist, anything. So he made something arts like that as what you see on the picture. Random pictures like there is colorful pictures, a god, an artist, anything. So that's kind of his art. Also making some extra arts for like saints or on a sculpture of gods, something like that. That's what his kind of art.
Good day, everyone. This is Alma M. Anglo, and I will be presenting mediocres in the art world, which are included in slide 157 to 167. Mediocres in the art world. Recipient CCP Artist Award 2003, Grantee Art Village, Burgundy, France 2005. Resident Artist, Gauchet Gallery, Vancouver, Canada 2007. Fellow Asian Cultural Center, New York 2009. Resident Artist, Headland Center for the Arts, San Francisco, USA 2008. Recipient visiting Foreign Artists Found, Canada, Council for the Arts 2010. Art exhibit in Switzerland, Singapore, Australia, USA, Serbia, China, and Germany. Art or non-art? For me, this picture, I consider it as an art because when you draw like the comics, we use our imagination to express what is inside our mind. It is already considered an art when someone using their imagination as a skill in making drawings. Not all can make an artwork, drawing and paintings. So, when someone can make a very good drawings, when just using their imagination, it can consider an art. When someone can express what is their mind through paintings and drawing is an artwork. Carlo J. Caparaz, named by President Arroyo in 2009 as National Artist of the Philippines for Visual Art and Film, amidst protests mostly from the academic sector. The Supreme Court nullified the proclamation of Caparaz in 2013. Point of view of the intelligentsia class. President Arroyo has recently declared former security guard turned to Filipino comic strip creator and writer, turned director and producer Magno Jose Carlo J. Caparaz as national artist for a new and mixed category she herself created, visual arts and film. GMA's choice of Caparaz True was not surprising since Mrs. Arroyo's rise to power itself was a work of fiction. In last week's protest action, Armida Sigyon Reyna said she didn't want to address her message to Carlo J. Caparas because mahina ang kanyang ulo. To which his wife, Donna Villas said, mahina man ang ulo, malakas naman sa Pangulo. Mr. Caparas, this is Dr. Butch Dalisay, Director of the UP Institute of Creative Writing, UP College of Arts and Letters. Allow me please to share my thought on your controversial palace back recognition. But before I say my piece, may treasures or dictionary ka ba sa tabi mo? You'll need one. Carlo, si Joel Lamangan to. Walang personalan. Who? Pero, hindi ko carry ang award mo. Maloloka ko sa'yo. Point of view of intelligentsia class. Complaints regarding Caparas, proclamation centered on the complaints that he did not illustrate the comic book he wrote and was therefore not qualified for the honor under visual arts, and the assertion of protesting artists that his work in the category of film is supposedly subpar, being largely pito-pito, literally 7-7, films rush finished in 7 days, and massacre films whose focus was sensational crimes. Point of view of Caparas. Caparas said that instead of criticizing his award, entertainment people should unite and work together to revive the ailing movie and comics industry. He attributed his win to the fact that he managed to cross over from comic books to film and television, and saying his trump was significant because he was a national artist who came from the working class. I am a national artist who came from the masses. The Philippine Daily Inquirer quoted him as saying, I worked and struggled with them. He said, it was time for a national artist who the masses can identify with, someone who walks beside them, someone who can inspire them. Nothing that some Filipinos did not even know the national artist, he said. Hopefully, nothing that some Filipinos did not even know the national artist, he said. Hopefully, since I am still active in TV, in the movies, this will encourage our countermen to learn more about our national artists. Is this book a great work of literature? Doris Lessing, The Fifth Child. Is she a writer, a great writer? Won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2007. For my opinion, the book The Fifth Child is a great work of literature because it says there are suffering and happiness a mother can experience when she gives birth to a child. Mother often taken for granted by their families. Mothers can often taken for in this book you can see the suffering a mother can experience when she gives birth and taking care of their child. She thought that she can already enjoy giving birth since it is already her fifth child, but she thought it wrong when she experienced pain. It is a great book since many mothers who can related to it. For my opinion, Doris Lessing is also a great writer since writing novel is not really easy. It comes from your wide imagination and experiences, a natural born talent. She is a great because her works won a Nobel Prize, because her work shows feminism and about mental health, her works also shows racism, and she also has science fiction in her works. She is famous because of her works. Who originally made this design? And another art is Tricia Co. Reyes, 13 years old, Life in the Forest, 2011. As she got a first place 20th International Children's Painting Competition on the environment organized by the United Nations Environment Program. Godofredo Pabreo, The River and My House, 2008, Final Project in Humanities. I can say that this art show the beauty of the surroundings and fresh air. It also show the simple life of the family living the side of the river. Google, how much do you exist in www? Um, it and it and if you search the name of Leonardo da Vinci, they have 33,700,000, and the Pablo Picasso 20,100,000, Marcel Duchamp 958,000, Fernando Amorsolo 98,000, Alan Orate got 1,560. Thank you for listening. This is Group A and this is our presentation.